Welcome into Marketology for Monday, March 5th, alongside Matt Holt. I am Drew Martin. We got the bookmaker himself, Vice President at CG Technology. Find him on Twitter at Matthew Holt VP. Matt, welcome in, man.
Thanks. And yeah, it's been quite the weekend actually for the bookmakers. We've seen some of the the regular season conference winners going down in a big time way in these conference tournaments. Canisius and Ryder both lost their first game in the Metro Atlantic Conference, Northern Kentucky. So anytime there's lots of big upsets, it's usually good for the book, and we've had a good start to March.
Yeah, so the upsets that you're talking about, you're not getting a lot of tickets maybe on the big price underdogs, Matt?
No, not really. And look, to be honest, a lot of these smaller conferences, like we know all the teams because we're total degenerates. The real, even worse degenerates know all these teams, but the average guy walking into the book, he might know one or two teams from these conferences, and that's it. And they're not really concerned with the price they're going to lay. The games are on ESPN. They want to watch them. They want to have action. And when those popular teams and those conferences lose, it's really good for the book.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and what we got the West Coast Conference going tonight in Vegas, Gonzaga, San Francisco, St. Mary's, BYU. Got some under money in that St. Mary's game. You guys taking any kind of action you think the listeners need to know about in those?
You know what we are? I mean, look, this is one of the more popular tournaments in town every single year, and it seems like every single year it's the Gonzaga St. Mary's, the third game after they already played each other twice during the season. In fact, I'll be going to the game tomorrow if St. Mary's and Gonzaga both win, because it's such an epic game to watch those two clash in the finals. And they feel closer than ever this year, actually splitting the regular season series 1-1. We're seeing a little bit of underdog action coming in on on San Francisco tonight. Public's all over Gonzaga on this one, 3 times more dollars wagered over the counter on Gonzaga, but the sharper money on accounts about even in this game. Actually, about $220 more right now on San Francisco, so just slightly in favor of San Fran in that case. But you're right, we have seen a little bit of under action on the St. Mary's game, down to 35 from 136.5, so down 1.5 points there. And that's obviously the better game of the two here tonight. In that one, we're seeing some interesting action. Public all over St. Mary's in that, 4 times more dollars wagered over the counter on St. Mary's there. But again, on account action, it's actually like 1.5 more times dollars wagered on BYU in this game. And we'll get some real solid amount of BYU fans tonight for the nightcap. It'll be about 50-50. There's a lot of BYU fans in Vegas from when they used to play in the conference here for years and years and years. And Nevada has one of the bigger Mormon populations in the entire country, along with Utah. So plenty of Mormons, plenty of BYU fans from their time in the Mountain West. That one's going to be a fun game at 8:30 tonight.
Wait, Matt, off the court here, a question for you. So Sin City has a lot of Mormons in it? I didn't realize that, for real.
Yeah, I swear to God, it's one of those things. It's crazy. We actually have Nevada as a state, I think I read somewhere, has like the second biggest Mormon population in the country.
Man, that's crazy. Didn't know that. So yeah. Whenever BYU plays in Vegas, it's a tough ticket. Like a lot of people go for BYU.
Yeah, we get a good crowd. And then tonight, obviously, the semifinals of the tournament. It's at the Orleans. It's against St. Mary's, a ranked team. It has all the recipes for a good game, and I expect we'll do big handle, especially with the game being in town.
Is the Orleans a cool kind of environment to watch a game at?
So there's so many arenas in Vegas now, including really big arenas. We have a pro-style arena in T-Mobile, which holds 20,000, state-of-the-art, brand new. You have the MGM Grand Arena, which is really nice, been around forever. Thomas and Mack, where UNLV is played, where the Mountain West tournament's played every year. But the Orleans is a little bit intimate, and the way it sits, it sounds like the acoustics are louder. So there might only be 8, 9, 10,000 fans in there, but it sounds like there's 35, and it really gets loud in that building. It's a fun place to watch a game.
Cool, man. And yeah, guys, anybody in the chat box want to ask a question, feel free, either for myself, mainly for Matt. We got Big Man on campus in here. When he picks a game, does Matt move the line instantly? Not sure, Matt. You moving lines off of...
Is Jeff going to start sending me his picks or what? I mean, I can't move the line if I don't know who he's got.
Yeah. No. Is there anybody out there actually that would walk up to the counter and you'd go, he's betting that side, I'm moving at a 0.5 point?
100%. 100%. There are actually plenty of those guys, and there's guys targeted and labeled as that pretty much for every sport.
And would you limit the guy to, you know, an astronomically low level to where it wouldn't make him want to bet there? Or would you just keep kind of use it almost like as a contractor where you just move the half a line to try to get ahead of other people following them?
So look, there's certain books in town, obviously, that would just kick that better out. There's other books in town that would limit him so low that he wouldn't want to play there at all because it wouldn't be worth his time and effort. What we try to do is, obviously, he's going to have smaller limits than some other people, but we try to just, we normally allow those folks to bet more than the other books do, but we set parameters. Okay, you could only bet, 2,000 overnight or $1,000 overnight. And then day of game, you can bet, but you can't bet within an hour of tip off. You have to bet more than an hour away from tip off so that we can move the action. And, a lot of times you'll let people continue to bet and bet and bet, but, within certain regiments. So let's say you want to bet a college basketball game, you walk in off the street and you say, hey, I want to bet 200 grand. You could bet it at our place on a college basketball game. We're going to make you bet at 25 at a time. So you bet 25, we can move the number if we want. You can bet another 25 and so on and so on. A guy like that, you want to be able to make those, you basically, you're not going to give people small limits. You're going to let them bet, but you want to be able to move the line more aggressively. So maybe you say, you could bet 5 grand at a time. And he hits you with that first 5 and you move it aggressively. And most times they don't even take the second 5. They may take the second, but they're not going to take the third because at that point they know they can still get the better number everywhere else. And as we know, the truest, most professional sports bettors in the world are so price sensitive that they won't bet it as soon as it's 10 cents, 15 cents off market. They go, oh, I can get, I could save that 15 cents by betting elsewhere. They quit betting.
Man, that's fascinating stuff from your side of the counter. I'm sure a lot of people are interested in that kind of information. I know I am. We got some more questions in here. How do you set numbers for MEAC, SWAC, Southland type conferences? Do you feel exposed? Guessing yes. Any comment on that?
Look, the limits are a little bit lower, and this time of year, to be honest, everybody thinks everyone thinks they know what's going to happen in these conference tournaments. The good thing about conference tournaments is they're so unpredictable, right? It's a one and done situation. The pressure's there more than it is any other time. So the unpredictability of these smaller conference tournaments tends to make our job a little bit easier. You're right. Look, we don't put some of the SWAC games on the board all year long, but when we do, the unpredictability of the tournament helps. Look at the Big South tournament where Radford won. Look no further than the Metro Atlantic, where Ryder and Canisius both lost their first games outright. The unpredictability of those tournaments tends to make up for any gaps in our ability to make numbers for it. And we got a lot of guys in this room that are really into college basketball, and I feel pretty strong about our college hoops numbers.
Okay, good stuff. Hey, we got Big Man in here, Trenton, Jay, what's up, man? A couple questions, and Matt, when we're taking questions off the chat box, if you don't know, it's feel free to just say, not much on it. Anything on William and Mary over 151 or North Dakota over 146? You have any opinion on those two, bets or any action on those two games you think the listeners should know about?
So College of Charleston right now, the game itself, not the total, but the game itself is actually our biggest liability on the college basketball board tonight as of right now. We've taken a lot of College of Charleston action here. And it's not surprising. College of Charleston was supposed to be the best team in the Colonial. They are the best team in the Colonial. They're the #1 seed in this tournament. They came off sort of a lackluster performance yesterday. And I think William and Mary's track record of success in this tournament may have helped keep this line low as at the opener. But I think the number's supposed to be around 5.5. So the fact that people are pounding College of Charleston now isn't a big surprise, as maybe the number opened a little bit light. As far as the total, we only have 2 bets on this game, over $500 on the total, a $600 actually, and a $770 bet. They're the only 2 bets over $500 on the total. Both on the over 151 right now.
Damn. And Matt, when you're saying 2 bets over $500, do you just have software that kind of separates it at $500 to where anything under $500 you don't really pay attention to?
As soon as you say a game, I could pull up our live risk, and then I could just hit any bet over 500, show me, and I can look at it as we speak.
Ah, interesting, man.
So I can see where the line of our current is, where all the bets were placed at what number. So
nice. And do you find the bigger bets coming in at certain properties?
Yeah, for sure. You know, we have some big strip properties that tend to be more high end: Venetian, Palazzo, Cosmopolitan. Those properties, just because the clientele they have in there, not necessarily because the clientele is any sharper than the clientele that bets at the other properties, but just because of the amount of money that clientele spends at the casino on average, it also lends to bigger bets from those properties in general.
Okay. And guys out there, if you're liking the content, if you could give us a thumbs up, and also if you could share on your social media outlets, that would really help us out a lot. Trying to get the word out on the show. Marketology, we got Vice President of CG Technology here, Matt Holt. Yeah, if you could share on Facebook, retweet on Twitter, that would help us out a lot. Matt, when you talk about sharper bettors, do you ever kind of label a sharper better, even though he might be, say, only $1,000 better, a $500 better, where you would kind of mark him and say, hey, I'm going to move the line off of him? Or do they have to be throwing out, a lot of money?
No, I mean, no. The answer to your question is no, but about $500 per bet is probably about the basement for you to get labeled as a sharp. Okay. I always tell people, look, if you want to beat the books, really, one of the ways to do it and go under the radar is to bet really small. The problem with betting really small too is you don't make any money really. So you'll be able to bet for a long time, but you could bet 500 a game, 400 a game. And if you're constant, and it's not always results orientated, what we do is we have software that runs and say, what was the line when you bet it? What was the closing line? And if every game you bet, the closing line ends up 2 points in your favor, you're going to end up getting labeled a sharp.
And then would you be kind of labeled that on your app, or only walking up to the counter, or both ways?
It's only a bet's made on your account.
Okay.
And really sharp limits are just, if you're betting 500 or 1,000 a game, you're never going to hit limits on anything anyway. So it doesn't really matter what your label is at that point.
Anything in the futures market, 20 or 1 or higher, getting hit hard? Off the top of your head?
Yeah, particularly. You know what? I know Tennessee was one of the popular ones lately. We had Arizona State in the field, and so our field price is down to 28 to 1 because people are just trying to look for big odds. We're starting to see some Arizona love. We went back up to 20, but a lot of people think they're a mission team. Plus, our proximity to Arizona tends to lend itself to us taking Arizona bets anyway. So we've been seeing some Arizona money coming back. Michigan, obviously, they reminded people how good they were with that Big Ten tournament run with no other big conferences going last week. The fact that Michigan was able to own the spotlight all to themselves by winning such a prominent tournament as the Big Ten tournament without the competition of also, Big 12, ACC, Pac-12 games all going at once. The only major conference was Big Ten, and I think no team benefited from that more in terms of popularity in the futures market than the Michigan Wolverines.
All right. And Matt, did you want to throw anything else out on the small school tournaments, Fairfield versus Iona, any of the other ESPN games tonight?
Interestingly enough, this line went up to 3.5. We were taking Iona money early, and then suddenly it's been a wave of Fairfield action. We're back down to 2.5, and they're betting Fairfield money line and Fairfield spread in this game at a pretty good clip. Not the best games tonight. We get a lot of finals tomorrow, but it's interesting that there's some really sharp college basketball bettors on both sides of this Iona Fairfield game.
All right. And guys, anything else on college basketball, feel free to chime in any questions on the live chat. Matt, on the NBA action, we got Memphis, San Antonio, some injuries with this game, also some over money. Are you guys seeing anything you think the listeners should know about?
Well, I think some of the over money helped because nobody knew who was actually going to play in this game. And then all of a sudden, at least Marc Gasol got announced as probable. Wayne Selden got announced as probable. I mean, the injury report for the Memphis Grizzlies is unbelievable. Tyreek Evans out, Conley out, Harrison out, Mario Chalmers out. The fact that they get Selden and Gasol tonight is actually a big boost because they were running out of players. And on the other side of it, Aldridge is still questionable, and he has a big impact on the total, but I think he actually has a big impact on the defensive side of it as well. So, and I think, Marc Gasol used to once have an impact on the lines in terms of when Gasol was healthy, he would actually be an under impact to the line. We're seeing that he's no longer that guy. He's gotten a little older. He's no longer the defensive presence he was. And having him in the game actually boosted it toward the over, whereas 5 years ago, it probably would have actually moved it to the under.
Matt, how'd you do UFC-wise this weekend?
I did awesome, man. I killed it.
Yeah, I had a big weekend.
I only lost one fight. Adam Milstead. It was the opening fight of the card. I had Adam Milstead plus 280, and he lost a split decision, which I actually thought he won. And if he ends up getting the win there, I sweep the card and have a monster day.
Oh, man. So what did you finish as far as unit-wise?
4-1. I think up like 6 units.
Damn.
You know, I had Dalloway as a dog and Ortega as a dog. Arlovsky was a 2-1 dog, well, plus 175 dog. So yeah, we did good.
Yeah, man. We need to get your info out a little more on the airways, which we'll work on behind the scenes. But Matt, what about UFC 223 coming up in a couple weeks? Anything you think the listeners should know about the fighting fans, the bettors?
Yeah, look, it's the best card of the year, period. I mean, they stripped Conor McGregor of the lightweight title finally. You get the clear second and third best lightweights in the world behind Conor fighting for that title. Tony Ferguson and undefeated Khabib Nurmagomedov. Khabib is these two were supposed to fight twice, and both times it got canceled due to injuries in the past. Looks like it's finally going to happen here. This is a really good fight. And then we get a rematch of the women's strawweight fight from that big pay-per-view in November where George St. Pierre beat Michael Bisping, where undefeated strawweight champion Joanna Jędrzejczyk actually lost her title as a 7-1 favorite to Rose Namajunas. Now, what's interesting here is, look, the last time both these young ladies fought was against each other. Joanna Jędrzejczyk was a minus 700 favorite. She gets knocked out in the first round. Call it a fluke, call it what you want. These two are fighting an immediate rematch, and it's all the way down to Joanna Jędrzejczyk minus 150. So if you liked Joanna at minus 700, you have to love her at minus 150 in the rematch, despite the fact that she got knocked out in the first fight.
Yeah, that seems like a sharp angle right there. You know, that's just too big of a move. Matt,
yeah, look, I mean,
go ahead.
It's probably a fluky knockout, right? I mean, Joanna Jędrzejczyk is the best strawweight we ever saw, and prior to that loss, people were comparing her to Ronda Rousey in terms of, wow, this girl's unbeatable at this weight. Who's ever going to beat her? She's just amazing. Her skill set's unstoppable. And then she gets knocked out in the first round. She goes from minus 700 to minus 155. I think there's probably a little bit of value. Look, the line should probably be somewhere in between. It can't be minus 700. Again, she just lost. But it should probably still be like minus 300. The fact that you only have to lay minus 155 probably makes the fight a value.
Yeah, I'm going to look into that right when we get done. And how does that work with Conor getting stripped of his title? Do you know kind of the rules behind that?
No, unfortunately in UFC there are no rules, right? Normally it used to be a long time ago they'd say you have 18 months to defend your title. Then it was 12 months to defend your title. Then it was kind of at the UFC's discretion because if you're a really popular fighter, they don't really want to strip you of your title. But look, Conor hasn't fought in so long. He didn't fight once in the UFC in 2017 because all he did is focus on the big boxing match with Floyd. And now we're already almost into Q2 of 2018. And look, I mean, Conor may never fight again. He has 100 million reasons never to fight again at this point. And, you know, who's to say he ever will in the octagon? So I think the UFC had to do something. And maybe this puts a little pressure on Conor. Hey, we just took your title away. If you want to prove to people you're the lightweight champ, come get it back.
Doesn't he have 2 titles? No, just one.
Well, he won the featherweight title, and he never lost it. Then he moved up to lightweight. The problem was Conor McGregor won the featherweight title at a time where the UFC used to allow you to rehydrate with IVs. Then in late 2016, they put that rule into effect that you could no longer use IVs after the weigh-in in order to rehydrate. You get disqualified if you do. So without the use of IVs, there's no possible way Conor McGregor really could ever make 145 again. In fact, if you look at 2 of his last 3 fights in the UFC against Nate Diaz, they were fought at 170 pounds. I mean, and he won the 145-pound title. He could probably make 155, but he's never making 145 at featherweight again.
Okay, so thanks for explaining that. I'm sure a lot of guys, I guess we're kind of, hopefully we're confused like me, maybe not. But so he's at 170, he's getting stripped of it. It almost could
No, he's
kind
at
of
155. He was
I mean,
the champ at 150.
yeah, yeah, but like it's almost seeming like the two guys, number 2 and number 3 are going after it, and then it might set up for actually the title holder to go against Conor McGregor, and that could be like a blockbuster event. But
yeah, of course, especially if it's Khabib, because Khabib's undefeated, and I know they had talked about the UFC doing a huge mega pay-per-view card in Russia with Khabib versus Conor. Because look, Conor's not coming back to make 5 million, 8 million after he just made 100+ million versus Floyd. It's got to be at least like a $20 million payday. Unfortunately, in the UFC, there's only so many guys you could put Conor in against where you can afford to pay him 20, 25, 30 million. Khabib, especially if the fight's in Russia, might be one of those rare instances where you could raise the kind of capital you needed to pay Conor the money he wants.
Man, it's a business, all about the money for sure. Hey, Matt, we just got a couple more questions here from Daryl. Do you monitor betting sites to see what they're betting on, or do you just kind of laugh or not pay attention at all?
Yeah, I don't monitor any betting sites at all.
Okay, and then another one from SBR Forum in the Big 12 conference tourney. I don't believe Kansas will win this. Also don't like West Virginia to win it. Do you think the dark horse Texas can win it, Matt?
Well, the only one thing going against Texas is they do have to play an extra game. Texas Tech's a little banged up. They lost Zach Smith earlier in the year. Keenan Evans has been hobbling around with an ankle injury. I think it would actually, Texas Tech's in the tournament. It would probably do them some good to sit out a game or two. The one problem with Texas is they have to play that extra game. So does an Oklahoma against Oklahoma State, which is going to make it difficult for those teams because there's no easy outs in the Big 12. If I was going to pick a sleeper right now and say, look, I want a long shot sleeper, let's throw out Kansas, let's throw out West Virginia, I think there's two places I would look. I would look at Kansas State because of the way that they play defense and rebound the basketball, and their guards are really good. When their guards get hot shooting, Kansas State can be as good as anybody. And I would look at Baylor. Baylor's gotten better as the season went on. Look, basically they had LeConte, the point guard, and a bunch of really athletic power forwards who couldn't shoot a lick. But as the season's gone on, they become a better shooting team. They run a little bit better offense. They're super athletic. They're going to hit the glass on the rebounds. And if West Virginia, ends up stumping its foot right out of the gate, you'll have a Baylor versus Texas Tech scenario, which actually sets up favorably for Baylor. I would look at Baylor and Kansas State as the two teams that, you can get big odds on that probably have a legit shot at winning it.
Okay, well, good stuff, Matt. Anything else you want to throw out there?
No, that's about it. I mean, hopefully it's Gonzaga and St. Mary's in the rematch again tomorrow. That's going to be a really good game. And look, this week's about to get crazy. Starting tomorrow on, we have games all day long, and I know it's a distracting week for everybody, and it's exciting every week for everybody. Set aside some money. Don't blow it all on one game. Spread it out a little bit and have as much fun as possible, because I've seen so many people that get so excited for these conference tournament weeks going into March Madness, and by afternoon of the first day, they've shot their whole load for the week, and spread it out. Have some fun. It's an awesome time for college basketball fans.
March Madness, for sure. It is upon us. Any early lines out there for St. Mary's versus the Zags?
I think it's going to be Gonzaga 2.5, 3.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. Please give us the thumbs up button if you like the content. Also, in Vegas, make sure to check out CG Technology. Place your bets there. One of the best books in the world. Thank you, Matt. And we'll be back next Monday, same time, same place.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks, guys. All right, see you, Drew.